Hello, everybody. Welcome. I hope everyone is feeling well and rested after night one of Avalanche. I know I am. So today we're going to talk to our esteemed panel about Web3. So we're in this expanding Web3 ecosystem now. So how are traditional businesses, sometimes called the Web2 crowd, adapting to these innovations? So let's jump right into it. I first want to talk about why this is hard. So, you know, what is the industry, what are the biggest challenges that you all are facing? I'm kind of interested to hear from each of your perspectives what you're facing in your own lives and in your own struggles with getting, you know, your companies and technologies from Web2 to Web3. Let's just start with you.
I'll start. Yeah. So I think the real challenge that we find when we talk to sort of the Fortune 500 large enterprises is identifying use cases that can be deployed at scale. So a lot of the early adoption of Web3, blockchain, digital asset technology by major companies, they're really in the proof of concept phase, or in the brand space, they've managed to achieve some traction with what we call the super user base or the Web3 native base. So some of the NFT projects that you've seen major brands do are in that category. But how do you go from finding something that excites 1,000 of your most loyal fans because they want a pair of trainers to millions and millions of users? And that use case still needs to be developed, and it's not just, let's just take what we're doing and put it on a Web3 rail. It really needs to be something that solves for the fact that most users aren't going to establish their own wallets. They're not going to use MetaMask. They're not going to do the types of things that we all do when we first engage with crypto or Web3. So that's a big challenge.
Great. Why don't we just go down the line?
Sure. I think the main challenge for Web2 companies is engaging their existing communities. Most of them actually overlook their current communities. This happened, for example, with NFT project launched by Porsche. The mint price was so expensive that existing users couldn't even tackle that. And the concept of minimum viable product has become minimum viable community. And I think many companies are struggling engaging their existing communities and bring them to Web3. And this is probably partly a challenge about education, understanding blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and most of these companies approach from a volatility and risk perspective, and they don't know how to navigate that. So I think when you couple that with the community aspect, that is the main hurdle for Web2 companies to actually embrace Web3.
Yeah, maybe I don't even like the word challenge. I would probably see it more as opportunities. And yeah, to set the stage here, maybe you have to understand where Aeon is coming from. So Aeon is a professional firm with around 50,000 employees worldwide. And we are providing solutions and advice around risk management, insurance broking, human capital solutions for clients across all industries. Therefore, we had clients in the crypto space since the beginning. But what we have seen now in the last couple of months, we have made an internal investigation of our biggest enterprise group clients. And we have recognized that more than 70% are at the moment investigating how they invest into Web3, either holding cryptocurrencies or providing services or products on chain. And I think these provide so many opportunities where maybe the word challenge is still probably right, but it will be more going into opportunity. And also within Aeon, Web3 is one of the growth accelerators for the future, and it's placed next to climate risk. There you see it's high-level attention where I think the industry maybe has a long way forward, but it will be an exciting journey.
Again, after Web3 gaming session, this is a challenge, I think. This panel is a challenge with this community. And I'm working for a universal bank for each customer groups and segments and everything. So I can say like the main challenge would be the technical tech stack actually. Because our infrastructure, all the systems, legacy systems, let's say, Web2 systems maybe, and the technological skill set we need. So this makes our lives pretty difficult. So to take this challenge to an opportunity. Luckily, we have a very young group of people within the technology, and we have a lab, innovation lab, to work as an MVP factory to try make some errors. Luckily, we have our own budget for this and facilitate this kind of, let's say, innovative projects for us. Since 2016, we are working on like blockchain projects for trade finance first, and then cross-border money transfers, and now CBDC projects, and working on this. I think to first create the terminology, the culture, and then now we're around the technical stage, and this is now where our investments and most of our efforts goes for like this.
Great. So, Itai, we were talking earlier about this, and I want to hear about use cases. I want to hear about Web3 use cases. How are these technologies going to make my life as the consumer easier? So I want to hear all the things you're cooking up.
Sure. I mean, so let me start. We focus on a couple of broad verticals, and we were talking earlier. And I always say, like, remember the first line of the Bitcoin white paper has the word payments in it. And that's because payments, to me, still represent the whole point and purpose and killer app of blockchain. You know, and I come from the traditional financial services world and from foreign exchange. And when we use the word payment, what we actually mean, a payment is just a message. It's just a message that says, debit this ledger, credit this ledger. And a blockchain instruction is a much smarter message that can do a lot more. And so I think that payments is going to be one of the most revolutionary use cases. And it's been around for years. We've been talking about this for a long time in crypto. But it's not as simple as just saying this blockchain is better, let's all use it for payments. There's a whole regulated financial ecology that needs to grow around a new payments use case, right? There are cross-border issues, there are rules that in some ways blockchain disrupts. But ultimately, the prize, and I remind this, payments is a $2 trillion industry per year. There's $1 trillion in B2B and $1 trillion in B2C payments. It's embedded in every price of a cup of coffee. It's embedded in every airline ticket. And if you can create a much cheaper, scalable, effective payments mechanism, ultimately you unleash all of that, disrupt that whole industry, and a lot of those revenues go to new use cases, new players, goes back to consumers. So you know, we could talk about a lot of use cases, but to me, payments remains one of the most critical, one of the most obvious, and will be one of the most disruptive.
Yeah. Anybody else have thoughts on payments?
Well, maybe I might have some ideas, being a payments company. So Paysafe is a global payments service provider. We work with more than 5,000 merchants, transact about $130 billion a year. And the main focus that we have right now at Paysafe is to build crypto capabilities to cater to our merchants and their consumers. The friction is still there. When you converge fiat with cryptocurrency world, you still see users struggling to on-off ramp, get lost in the process, difficult to buy an NFT and send it, etc. So our job is to basically provide a seamless, compliant integration between traditional finance and the new economy, which is digital currencies. And I think I would like to highlight the fact of compliance. In a regulated industry in traditional finance, those rules are set, KYC, AML, those kind of things. So when you are bringing fiat economy in touch with crypto economy or Web3 economy, you need to have skill sets and tools and products and services in place to make sure that compliance is in place. That's one of the biggest blockers in my opinion. The next phase is basically building, I would call these bridges between crypto on-off ramps, crypto to crypto, crypto to fiat, fiat to crypto. And I think users would like to understand a situation where if I use a card today, I don't know how it works. If I use a mobile phone, I don't know how it works, but I use it. They would like to get to a level where the process and the experience is seamless, so they don't worry about what's happening behind the scenes in terms of the engine room, but they would like to send money to Mexico from US or Philippines to wherever. The other thing is, I think, when you look forward, we don't really have a killer app yet. roll back to 2008 when App Store, iOS and Google Play were coming on into our lives, you had only 5,000 to 10,000 applications. Today, I think the number is close to like 6-7 million applications in these app stores. The way I look at all these layer ones and different blockchains is that payments, yes, but they are also payment ecosystems that enable certain dApps and different applications. That's why we want to swim upstream. That's why we're here at Avalanche, for example, to tap into this ecosystem and make sure that we can offer seamless on-off-ramp solutions between fiat and Web3 with the Avalanche ecosystem. And I think it's going to be a struggle for payments companies to build this capability because they have to let go a certain revenue-generating component, and they will have to invest in something new. And it's quite difficult if you're a legacy payment service provider. So you will see consolidation, acquisitions, etc. And until the number of crypto users globally reaches maybe 1 billion, people will still doubt the potential of Web3 and crypto. And until that time, you will not see large investments. So in a nutshell, I agree that, with Itai, that payments is the right approach for blockchain, and we'll probably see some better applications, more inclusive applications in Web3 around traditional finance and payments.
Burkhard, I'm curious to hear about what you're seeing out in in your own landscape, in your own industry, about what companies are doing to prepare for the new Web3 technologies, maybe what your company specifically is doing, and have you seen any companies that are doing it especially well? And what are those things that the companies that are succeeding, what are they doing?
I think it's a good question, which is also a good follow-up question to what will be the next killer app. And I mean, if you look in the space, everybody's speaking, yeah, we have the next killer app, which will onboard millions of users. But I think it's not the most important question, what will be the next killer app. It will be the main important question for me is how do we onboard people? How do we generate trust that they use these steps? So in my private group, the first friend I recommended to use crypto. So he downloaded MetaMask, and I think after 2 weeks, he lost his account because the smart contract was not working. Yeah, in private life, this is working, but institutions, they won't join the industry if there is no trust. So I think there's lots of work to do to create trust and bring in institutions in. And I think if we as an industry, and also like the insurance industry, can, for instance, audit smart contracts and provide smart contract insurance, so in case a smart contract is not working correctly, an insurance providers indemnify you for the loss, this will be onboarding millions of users, and it doesn't matter which app it is. So this is what we are currently working on in the industry, because Aeon is one of the biggest players in the insurance market, so we try to educate the insurance players to come into crypto. And yeah, therefore, I think there will be thousands of use cases, and we just need to make sure to build the trust.
Bujir, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about regenerative finance, yes? We were talking earlier. Yeah, we have a lot of companies now, you hear a lot about AI, and there's a huge race for resources. And I'm curious how you're thinking about this, and is Web3 just as critical as AI right now? Is there a resource race? And how are you thinking about it?
For regenerative finance part, maybe saying refi is easier outcome from the DeFi concept, let's say. In our domain, in our sector, sustainable finance and the hype, it's now becoming a hype, but it won't be enough when you think about the traditional economies and the way finance and our economic model, let's say, is going on. So we think we need to find a way of doing things differently, let's say, in terms of the economical model, which will be sustainable and also help society for climate crisis or poverty, more inclusive, more transparent, and I think Web3 plays a crucial role in here. Last year, we tried to build a community in Turkey regarding refi. So we worked with with Imece, a social impact platform in Turkey, and we try to bring Web3 and crypto community together with the social impacts and hubs and everything. So it's actually works well, and now we have the terminology, we have the community there, and now we are trying to scale what we have over there. So you know, we have strong earthquakes and huge events going on in Turkey, and we see how the social responsibility companies, and when you want to send money or send some social help to the community over there, blockchain technology and Web3 again plays a critical role in here. You can track via blockchain technology everything. So I think it was like a scalable use case to see how far we can go with this. So we will continue to invest on refi projects. And last year, actually, in Avalanche platform, we have a refi hackathon. And that was the first time that I was together with this community, actually, with by a traditional banker, let's say. So I think we will do great things further.
Great. So I want to change gears a little bit and talk about privacy and security. This is for, for any of you can jump in here. How do you see what companies who are adopting Web3 really addressing these issues, both privacy and security for their users?
When we say privacy and security, I think each comes to you and myself as financial services. But I think for the privacy and security, we work as financial services in a very regulated environment. So GDPR and everything, we need to we need to become a trusted partner for the consumers and also for companies. In this hand, we also try to build a network with other banks, maybe some central banks and everything, to become a more like, if you want to protect your identity, digital identity, this becomes very important in payments and also in all of the financial transactions, actually. So I think this is a huge opportunity. In addition to the payments domain, in this side, like privacy, digital identity, KYC processes and everything, blockchain and Web3 gives a huge opportunity and excitement, I think, in our sector. But we should try to have regulators on board together with us. This is, I think, another challenge. Maybe we can talk a little bit later on.
I think I can confirm that privacy and security comes somehow with regulation. And of course, you can think about how privacy solutions or security solutions can look like, but if the legal or the governmental framework is not there, how can this fit? So I think we have to make the first step first before riding the horse, and this is like going into discussions with regulators and discuss with them what is needed, what is required, and then based on legal frameworks, defining then all the rules around security, privacy in the Web3 space.
Well, why don't we just talk about regulation now then? Like, how are all of your companies dealing with it and adapting to that?
Do we have enough time?
We have 12 minutes.
Yeah. So I'll take a shot. I mean, my personal view is that technology lifecycle has accelerated to a point where regulators are not able to keep up with it. They need to change their DNA. They need to equip themselves with blockchain engineers. They need to equip themselves with smart contract engineers and keep those guys within the regulator employment. Right now, what you see is that something bad happens and there's a knee-jerk reaction. And as a result of it, it's prohibitive, it's choking all the industry. So in my opinion, regulators have, to a certain extent, failed to protect consumers in the last 12, 13 years. And now they are trying to do it. Obviously, MiCA in Europe is a great step forward. Yes, we can debate, is it good, is it bad, can it be better? But at least it provides clarity. We know the rules, we know what we need to do as merchants, companies, etc. So I think when you look at the challenge of regulators, it's not a traditional industry anymore. It's not like tobacco. It's not like automotive, where you can take your time and say, oh, well, let's design the regulation for the next year because we have time. Just due to the fact that we are an engaged community now, using social media, other tools, etc., the impact of a tweet can be massive, and regulators just don't know what to do about it. So in my personal opinion, we work with regulators very closely. I mean, I know some of the individuals are very progressive, but the challenge is that traditional finance and regulators are behind the technology life cycle, and they need to catch up. And during this catch-up period, there's going to be always friction. And we will all, go through a painful process of adopting new regulation, getting compliant with it, etc. I mean, we talked about MiCA earlier. We're going to see that, when it hits the market, it's going to be a little bit of a chaotic process because nobody's going to know, just like GDPR. Are we doing it right? Are we doing it wrong? And everybody's going to copycat each other. This is the same flow. So hopefully, we'll see who regulates what market, what jurisdiction, what type of security commodity. That's one clarity we need. And the second one is a little bit more progressive, inclusive regulatory mindset, I would say.
Maybe I'll take a sort of shifted perspective because our clients are Fortune 500 major company C-suites. And from a use case perspective, I would just summarize the regulatory question. The answer is, please bring us something that doesn't at all deal with anything regulated. That is the current stance of the corporate community in Web3 and blockchain. While this is all being sorted out, avoid this like the plague. So that's why the use cases that should be more obvious, like payments, actually move slower than the use cases like, direct to consumer, NFT, brand, loyalty. These things, I think, in the next year or two will be much, much bigger accelerants in the corporate community, purely because they want to avoid the drama around where the regulatory environment is going to go. And even if you talk to, for example, lawyers in the crypto space, particularly in the US, where we all know the regulatory problems are the most acute, they're changing their advice. You've seen a lot, more sort of defensive positioning around what you should be allowed to do, what you should do, what part of the regulatory framework, particularly because if you can't have regulatory certainty, and a lot of these companies, the senior executives are on the hook. I came from regulated banking. I spent, of my month, days and days and days with regulators, and you're personally liable, you're on the hook. Right now, the stance from a lot of major companies, give me something that either is regulated already, falls under MiCA, we can understand, or gets as far away from regulated use cases as possible.
Burkhard, do you have any feelings on regulation?
Well, I think there it's also where institutions and traditional companies can bring tremendous support through the community because they have the connections and the scale to have our voice heard. Also, I think as an industry, if you are a small startup, of course you can collaborate in associations, but we are in discussions and roundtables with all the regulators and really looking on how can this industry benefit the economy, but also society. And this is where I think we need to change the mindset from getting away like Web3 linked to pixeled monkey pictures to where can Web3 have a real influence. And I think this is how we can influence and impact the discussions with regulators, because they are thinking probably way bigger than in this small space where maybe many of our people in this bubble are still in there.
Yeah, so you talked about how, a lot of leaders are like, just don't bring this near me. What do you think is going to happen for companies who actually don't, or they're either, for whatever reason, they're afraid of regulation or just don't really understand the utility? What do you think is going to happen to companies that essentially miss the Web3 boat? Like they fail to adopt it?
They're going to struggle. In my professional life, I saw sort of like the internet revolution change completely the nature of financial services. And I remember early on, I was a lot younger then, very senior bank executive stood up in a town hall and there was like 2,000 people, and he said, I just don't believe our customers aren't going to call us on the phone. Right? And I remember that, and we did not invest in digital distribution. Like, these are strategic choices. They drive huge spend, huge technology budgets, and the companies that say, you know what, this is all a scam, this isn't for real, it's not for us, we're going to keep going about our business the same way, you know, risk outcomes like we know, Kodak and these things we talk about where technology, or Nokia, where technology hit, it was obvious to many early adopters it was transformative, but maybe not prime time. And if you don't lay down the investments now, you won't be there when these things that we were talking about are resolved, and they will be resolved. So, you know, our sort of advice always to clients is build now, even if you don't launch. You know, even if you build the infrastructure and the capabilities, and you have these things ready, your time to market when we get things resolved, or mass adoption, or this one use case or application that really ignites millions and millions of users, you'll be there with a 6-month to market rather than a 6-year to market. And that really makes or breaks whether a company is successful or is unsuccessful. So I think those that just say, you know what, not for me, ignore, this is nothing, I mean, they do so at the long-term peril of their companies.
Yes, as like working on digital transformation in financial industries over than 10 years, I feel the same way. It was like first having lots of presentations with Kodak and Nokia stories behind it and everything. And then first the transformation goes to like, we will be like mobile first, and then go AI first, now API first and everything. So we need to adapt and try as many use cases as we can find. And we are, for example, trying to manage it as a portfolio of projects, like having more accelerated use cases like not regulated areas or enterprise side of the bank, for example, recruitment processes of the bank, or lots of documentation stuff for the efficiency side, smart contracts and everything. And also, I think it's very exciting to have the marketing. Other than payments, the loyalty schemes, with NFT-based stuff and everything, it will be a great, and it will accelerate very fast, I think, over the upcoming year and so. So I think it should have the huge impact, the way we do work, even enterprise, even customer facing. And I am also leading the design team. We have a design studio within our bank. So UI, UX people, and they're also very excited for the Web3 opportunities that will come. So I think there is no opportunity to, to wait and see.
So we've just got a few minutes left. I want to ask each of you to think about the future for a moment. I want to know what you think we're going to be talking about next year at Avalanche 2024, maybe even 2030. And I want to hear about what you're most excited about personally, like what use cases you think are exciting and are really going to you know, change the world in the near term.
Do you want me to start?
Start here, yeah.
So I think what we're going to be talking about next year, the really two things: loyalty programs and what I call B2C applications, and the tokenization of, you know, private assets. You know, really using blockchain as an infrastructure rail for really inefficient finance. I think those two things have enormous traction already. I mean, in the second one, you know, every big asset manager, most of them have teams. They work with tokenization companies. You have companies like Securitize on Avalanche that's already tokenizing private assets, and that requires no regulatory change from where we are today. It's just a new rail of doing something more efficiently. So I think that's going to be a really big topic, and the people forget the market size of what's possible there. It's like bigger than the equity market. So yeah, I'm really excited about that particular use case.
I think next year we'll be talking about Mika, because that will be in the market around this time, hopefully. Maybe there's a panel on it and regulation. On the payment side, we'll probably talk about some consolidation in the market, in my opinion. Most of the crypto-native payment companies have struggled last year. Let's see if the volumes come back up, and those capabilities might be needed by other companies. And when it comes to our products and services, we are in the business of moving value using fiat and crypto money. So if you have cash, you can actually deposit, get a voucher, go digital. If you want to process cards, that's what we do. If you want to use an embedded wallet to enable your platform, DApp or exchange to accept fiat on off-ramps, that's what we do. So I just expect more proliferation of that, where you have more optionality in fiat on off-ramps, including the crypto capabilities. And even forward to that, then I expect less steps to buy an NFT from fiat. Right now it takes maybe, 10, 11 steps. So from a user experience perspective, I expect a shorter journey for users to engage dApps.
I hope that the industry next year is more mature than it is right now, so that they get out of the infant shoes. I think we have overcome already an inflection point, and that we will see lots of acceleration within the next couple of months. From a private view, and this was also one question you said, I think the Web3 or the blockchain space, they need to understand the responsibility we have for the economy, but also humanity. No? You see, like all the bank failures now in the US, where big banks are gathering more and more deposits of the overall stake. You see nations centralizing and in some political circumstances misusing power. So I think centralization, in the end, it's not bad, but it's always, and I think history has proven that, it's always a threat of misuse of power. And that's why we're all here for. I mean, it's decentralization, and decentralization has had always the lack of efficiency in the past. But with blockchain, it's the first time that we have a chance to make decentralization efficient, and therefore really giving a big impact for our generation and all the generation which will follow.
Yes, besides payments and loyalty schemes and everything, I hope Regenerative Finance, and hopefully CBDC stuff, because central banks, like 9 out of 10, if I'm not mistaken, are working on digital currencies, stable coins. I know that ECB is also having a way, but it's not so fast as we see. But asset tokenization and hopefully some scalable use cases for the regenerative finance, let's say.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Itai, Buju, Burkhard, and Elbrus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.